You must not know how to read. You black woman, Judge Thompson mocked, his voice booming across the courtroom. This is a court, not a zoo for stupid monkeys. I thought you'd at least know how to dress for a trial. Or is that too much? Suppressive chuckles rippled through the room. Olivia Jackson stood alone at the defense table, her hair in a neat braid, dressed in a modest white blouse and gray skirt. Her hand clutched a cane, not from weakness, but principle. She didn't flinch. Do you even know why you're here? Thompson asked, sneering. Should I draw it out in crayons for you? Still, she remained silent. The hum of the air conditioner seemed louder than the breathless crowd. Swear her in, he ordered flatly. Then, under his breath, but loud enough to shame, dumb, Olivia raised her eyes. Calm, focused, the clerk swore her in. Before she could speak, Thompson cut her off again. Can you read, Miss Jackson? Or would it help if we used flashcards with jungle animals? Maybe a monkey would help you understand. Laughter again, restrained, awkward. She stepped forward, ready to speak, but shut up, he shouted. You speak when I say so. Who do you think you are? A single tear slid down her cheek. Look, she's crying, he smirked. Always so emotional, unless they're rioting or looting. A murmur passed through the benches. One woman shook her head. A bailiff turned his eyes away. What's the charge again? Thompson asked. Fraud? Falsifying documents? Surely not writing her own name. Finally, Olivia began to speak. I'm being accused of. Silence, he barked again, slamming the gavel. But she didn't retreat. Her voice rose, clear and steady. Your Honor, she said again, firmer that he blinked. Surprised she dared. Who gave you permission? My name is Olivia Gabriella Jackson, she said, louder now. I was born in Queens. I'm 32. I speak 3 languages. I graduated summa cum laude in political science and legal studies. I have a PhD in constitutional law from Columbia University. The room froze. I was summoned here by mistake. Someone confused my name with another. That individual has a record. I do not. In fact, I'm the one who flagged the forged documents across 3 languages. I alerted the authorities. Murmurs stirred. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. I have copies of the emails. Physical evidence was handed to your office, which no one cared to check. The judge clenched his jaw. I'm not the problem, she said. I was the warning. A pen dropped somewhere. A woman in the gallery slowly began recording with her phone. And by the way, Olivia continued, her voice sharp, I'm not Miss Jackson. I'm Dr. Jackson, Human Rights Advisor to the Senate Judiciary Committee. No one breathed. The side door creaked open. A tall man in a navy suit entered silently. Clean-cut, briefcase in hand, he walked straight down the aisle. And who are you? Thompson snapped. The man raised a gold badge. Special Agent Samuel Rivas, Judicial Integrity Division, DOJ. We've been observing this case with great interest. The air shifted. Thompson reddened. This is my courtroom, he thundered. I won't tolerate process. Olivia said quietly. You call this a process? He pointed at her again. Silence. This isn't Harlem. You don't parade your fake degrees here. I've seen your kind. Pretending to be more than you are. The room was ice. Just another black woman with delusions of grandeur, he spat. The intern gasped. A young man in the gallery stood, fists clenched. It's over, Olivia said. Still, you don't decide anything here. Thompson snapped. But I do, Agent Rivas said, stepping forward, envelope in hand. You've been under investigation. Racism. Abuse of power. This trial confirmed everything. Thompson paled. This is a trap. This is justice, Olivia replied, but a second figure entered. A silver-haired woman in a light suit, glasses dangling from a silver chain. She moved with purpose, heels striking marble. Thompson froze. What are you doing here? My name is Elena Figueroa, she said, firm but composed. President of the National Council of Judicial Ethics. I am here to enforce immediate suspension. You can't. Dr. Jackson was summoned here based on a fabricated accusation, inflated by your personal biases and racial prejudice. Lies enough, she snapped. You have no authority anymore. The room rippled with whispers. Phones were out. Everyone stood still. except Olivia. I have something to say, Olivia said. Figueroa nodded. The room hushed. For years, Olivia began, they looked at me like you did today, as if my skin were a crime. I studied, I worked, I endured. Not because I needed to prove something to you, but because I knew my worth. A long pause. But you never ask who we are. You only ask how much you can break us. The jury held their breath. You were wrong about me. But how many have you been wrong about before? How many black women were called dumb just for not having degrees they were never allowed to earn? She turned to the gallery, to the phones, to every watching eye. You humiliated me, and I know you won't apologize. Men like you never do. You just lose power. She stepped forward again, voice rising. I want this trial seen. I want every second of this recorded. I want young girls, black girls, to see this moment, to know they can rise, even when, suddenly, the rear doors opened again, slowly, revealing yet another figure stepping into the courtroom. 2 weeks later, Office of the State Attorney General. Are you sure about this, Dr. Jackson? Asked a lawyer in a gray suit, glancing at the complaint in front of him. More than ever, Olivia responded firmly, handing over a well-prepared folder. Inside was a detailed accusation against Judge Thompson, discrimination, abuse of power, obstruction of justice, and more. They protected him for years, Olivia said, her voice steady. But for years, he destroyed lives. Removing him from the bench isn't enough. He has to face the law like anyone else. The Attorney General looked at her in silence for a few seconds, then nodded. We'll begin the process. 3 months later, state criminal court. Now, Judge Thompson was in the defendant's seat. No robe, no gavel, no power. He avoided the cameras, but his eyes couldn't escape Olivia's unwavering gaze. She stood in front of the courtroom, not as a victim, but as a representative of those he had harmed. I speak not just for myself, but for those who were silenced, she began. The ones who never had the chance to speak against this man. The prosecution laid out the evidence, recordings, ignored emails, testimonies from defendants, and court employees. It was a portrait of a man who had used the law as a weapon to break those who couldn't fight back. When Olivia took the stand, she spoke with clarity and strength. This man humiliated me, she said. He tried to reduce me to nothing, not for anything I did, but because of who I am. This was no isolated incident. It was a pattern. This trial is not just for me, but for all the others he silenced. She turned to Thompson, her voice firm. You're not above the law, and I am not beneath it. 6 months later, sentencing day, Thompson was found guilty on multiple charges. He was sentenced to 12 years in prison without parole and stripped of all public office rights. Olivia stood in the courtroom when they handcuffed him. No smiles, no celebration, just quiet observation. As he passed her, she leaned in and whispered, Now you know what it's like to be judged for what you did, not what you pretended to be. He didn't respond, just walked away into a cell that he himself had once filled with others. Epilogue. Olivia Gabriella Jackson was invited to speak at Harvard and the United Nations, but her mission remained unchanged. She went back to the neighborhoods, defending those who never made the news, those who were overlooked and ignored. She fought not because she wanted revenge, but because she knew what it felt like to face a judge who didn't see you as human, and she knew what it felt like when the world finally listened. 1 year later, State Correctional Facility, Medical Unit. Are you sure you want to see him? The guard asked, his voice filled with respect, maybe even admiration. Yes, Olivia said firmly, but not for him. She entered the sterile hallway, walking toward a visitation room. Behind the glass sat Thompson, nearly unrecognizable, pale, thin, wearing a hospital gown, struggling to breathe through a nasal cannula. When their eyes met, he looked down, visibly moved. He reached for the phone. Olivia did the same. Thank you for coming, he said in a weakened voice. I didn't think you would. She said nothing, just listened. I have terminal cancer, he admitted. No treatment left. Weeks, maybe days. I'm here, Olivia said quietly. Say what you need to say. Thompson struggled with his words. All my life, I thought power was about having the last word, about mocking, controlling. I was raised to think that way. I was praised for being harsh, but I was never strong. I was cruel. Olivia stayed silent. And when you spoke that day, I realized what I truly am. I saw everything I destroyed to keep my false authority. I can't undo it, but if you'll listen, I want to apologize. Not for myself, but for everyone I hurt. She looked at him. No hatred, no compassion, just truth. I didn't come here to forgive you, she said. What you did can't be erased. But I came to tell you something. He lowered his head. You try to break me, she continued. You failed. What I am doesn't depend on your judgment. It depends on what I chose to become, even when no one saw me. Tears filled his eyes, and he wept in silence. When you leave this world, take this with you. You didn't break me. You made me stronger. Olivia hung up the phone and stood. Before leaving, she glanced at him one last time. Justice exists, Mr. Thompson. You proved it. She turned and left, the door closing softly behind her. Thompson sat there, alone, with the dead phone in his hand. For the first time in his life, he didn't want to speak anymore.